What's up, guys? It's been a long time, but finally making a new video here. Um, so, as you can see, this is all footage of the 2016 Indian Scout that I used to have. I do have to say it was a really nice bike. So, last October, I went ahead and I got myself a 2022 Springfield Dark Horse, and I'm gonna talk about that in a little while. Right now, as this video states, I am going to talk a little bit about the Scout and everything that I got from that bike. So, first off, the Scout to me is a good bike by all means. Definitely, definitely a bike worth having, especially if it is your first bike. It's a great bike. It wasn't my first bike when I got it. However, ultimately, it was the bike that I could get at the time, not necessarily the bike I wanted to get. Back then, I remember when I went to buy it, I wanted to get the Springfield Dark Horse. I just couldn't afford it at the time, and therefore, I wasn't trying to make a mistake that would hurt me financially at the moment. But then again, I saw the Indian Scout and I fell in love immediately. The Indian Scout is a great bike, and I have to say for the cost, the quality of the bike is amazing. It's just it's just great. It's a bike that will never leave you stranded. At least never did to me. The battery, I never had battery problems, and I changed the battery only once in 5 years, I believe, because I bought the bike mid 2015, and ultimately I changed the battery back on 2021. So this bike was a light bike. Uh, Handling the bike was super easy, and it had a lot of power to the point where you will be able to take off really really fast, especially since the bike is not heavy at all. It allows you to just go. The bike wants to go, and it definitely has that very good for itself. It's a bike that it's a very simple bike. It's nothing extremely fancy other than its looks because of how classic and simple it looks. But at the same time, it lacks in a lot of aspects, of course. The rear suspension, I'm sure everyone knows that it's a common issue with the bike. It's got some of the worst suspension ever. The included seat the bike comes with, it's pretty bad. It's a bike that whenever you get it, you have to think about changing the seat. And I remember that was one of the first things I changed because it was unbearable. It was something that there was just no way to be able to sit every day and use the bike for commuting, especially if you're commuting 20, 30 minutes, a couple of times a day or even longer. It's just impossible. And it's a bike that is not designed for long rides, mainly because it's got too small of a gas tank. And the gas tank being only 3.5 liters, 3.5 gallons. Sorry, it it requires you to pump gas every so many miles. So therefore, it's not you're not gonna get very far without having to stop to pump and be able to continue on and stop to pump again and then be able to continue on and so on and so forth. It just makes it a nightmare to be able to travel. At the same time, it's a bike that it controls really, really well. And due to its nature of how light it is, the bike has, you can stop the bike really fast. My bike didn't have ABS, so once I started riding it, I learned ahead of time that it was a good idea for me to start doing what I called um, preventing or defensive riding, meaning that I started figuring out when I was gonna have to stop, keeping my distance, and be able to, never get too close to cars unless I have an exit already planned. And with that being said, we're gonna get to a part in the video now that I'm gonna show one of the biggest points. But the other biggest point that I can make right now is that the Scout is definitely not a bike for somebody that is really tall, because it's a small bike. You're gonna be super uncomfortable if you are over, I want to say at least over 5'8", 5'9". And it's definitely not a bike designed for two people. If you're giving somebody a ride, I don't necessarily care what suspension you have on the bike or what kind of passenger seat you just bought. The passenger is going to feel everything. Most of the seats that come for the passengers, including the one that Indian sells stock, are seats that I haven't heard people not complaining about pain after sitting on the bike for 20-30 minutes. I believe there's a reason why they call it a bitch ride, and when you're riding bitch, especially on the Scout, you're going to feel it. But if we look to the video now, we're coming out to where I'm exiting, and normally one of the things that I really like to do on the Scout was engine braking. The Scout was really good due to the lightweight of it, and also the fact that the engine was very strong. The Scout will actually stop real easy, whether you let go of the clutch or you let go enough of it. The bike just wants to slow down, versus on the Springfield, you don't get that much, and I'm going to talk about that in a little while. But you can see the bike stops really easily, and I'm not necessarily braking a lot. It's just something that this bike is really good at doing. Regardless if you think it's good to engine brake or not, it's something that the bike allows you to do. And I don't know, I think it's a real good bike. And if you're thinking about getting a bike from Indian, and this is what you can afford, or you don't really want to spend a lot of money on it, this is a real good bike to have. Again, provided that you're not someone super tall, and provided that you're gonna use it for city riding. It's definitely a good commuting bike, not for long trips. And definitely it's a bike that I would suggest to have some sort of monkey bars on it, like I do, so you can keep your back straight and you can ride comfortably. Alright, so this is the Springfield Dark Horse. I don't know that you guys remember I had a Scout. I changed the handlebars. I changed the grips. I added a CC bar. I changed the headlight, as it came with an halogen headlight. And I changed the oil filter. The best things of this bike are the power. The gas tank is huge. The seat, super comfortable. The saddlebags, you can just leave your helmet there if you wear a half helmet and not have to worry about it. You can always bring a tire pump with you that you can plug into the cigarette lighter back there. And not be stranded. Alright, so as you could hear just now, that's what the Springfield Dark Horse sounds stock. I have not removed the cat yet, nor I have changed the mufflers at all, which eventually I will. Now, one of the things that Indian has done for this bike is that they have given it mufflers with a cat that is like incredibly crazy. Due to that, it makes it generate a ton of heat, and during certain days, much like this Saturday, riding on this hot weather can be very uncomfortable. There has been complaints of people like having the legs feeling the heat, but mostly under the seat, it gets very, very hot and uncomfortable. So take that into account because whether you're gonna have to have the cat removed and retune the bike, or you're gonna have to buy some other exhaust or muffler in order to have on the bike that doesn't have a cat. At the same time, keep in mind that the bike rides very, very well. It's almost like riding on the couch. Uh, I mean, since the first time I sat on this bike, I just couldn't feel the road at all. It's almost like there's no road. And I get it, you're riding with new tires and all that jazz, but it is just incredible. Simply incredible. Um, so, as I was saying previously, the engine braking on this bike is not a thing. As you can see right now, I'm coming to a stop and I am having to brake. Regardless if you just shift down and you let go of the clutch, it will take a long time for the speed to go down. I do not know what it is, but I am assuming that it is due to the weight of the bike and due to the bigger size of engine. Um, so that's a big thing. The controls on the bike are really, really neat. I love the fact that you have cruise control on this bike, which for long rides, such as the ride that I did to Okeechobee, it was nice to have because after riding for so long, your wrist can get a little tired holding the accelerator, pulling it back. It's a real nice addition. And since I had it, I started using it, and there's no one time that I don't get on the highway and after riding for a little while, I just pop the cruise control just because it's there, just due to comfort. I love the fact that it comes with the battery charger or battery tender connector. So whenever you put your bike away, especially if you live up north and you're not going to be riding for a while, you can just put a battery tender on it and it'll keep it charged and alive. Is the best. This is one of the best things it has. One complaint is uh, the head, the bonnet, on the front fender, that light. I personally don't think there's anything connected to that. I don't think there's a cable going to that. Even at nighttime, when you turn the lights on, that thing doesn't light up at all, or at least it doesn't look like it's lit up. I don't know if there is a way to connect it or what. I'm probably gonna bring it to the dealer and find out what can be done to it eventually, as I will like it to light up. Um, the headlight that I put on this bike now, it's great. It wasn't really, really bad, but it definitely was lacking. So keep in mind that that needs to be changed when you get it. The suspension on the bike suspension on the bike is really good because it's actually adjustable. So if you're ever gonna ride with someone else, or if you're a heavier person, you can actually adjust it and make it harder or lighter depending on your riding style. One of the things that impressed me about this bike is the fact that when you're riding, obviously you notice that I don't use a windshield. I don't like fairings at all. I like to feel the wind. But on this bike, you actually don't feel the wind a lot. You feel it mostly, I want to say, from the neck up. The fact that this bike has an upward angle for the gas tank up to the headlight, it deflects the wind really well to the point that you don't feel anything on your chest. Like there's nothing pushing you back. On the Scout, I remember it was a struggle because you were holding for dear life on those handlebars. Once you were going high speed, the wind would start to push you back, and it was like not only keeping up with the speed but also holding to the handlebars not to fly back. On this bike, it's nothing like that. On this bike, you're actually holding the handlebars just to control the bike, not to be able to keep yourself on the seat, which I think is great. I did mention before that the stock mini ape handlebars that the bike comes with, they get to be a little short. I can only imagine what it will be for somebody taller, but for me that I'm 5'7", those things were short. They will make me lean forward a lot, and also they were making me not be able to sit straight, which it wasn't really comfortable because it just, your back will just hurt, and it will definitely reduce your riding time. Not something that you ever want, definitely. um, so as I mentioned previously, riding this bike is really a dream. If you're somebody that you're thinking about getting a nice bike, not just for commuting but also for traveling, but then at the same time you don't like fairings, or maybe you don't want a fairing but you don't mind using a windshield, this is the bike for you. This bike will work great in the city, will work great on the highway, and it's just great. I see it as the higher point on the bikes before you start going into fairings and into big touring bikes. This is more of a simpler touring type bike, I guess. Anyway, so those are my 5 cents on this bike. The last thing I want to talk about will be the turning at high speeds. On this bike, obviously, the lean angle is nice. I mean, it's not bad at all. But when you compare the lightness of a Scout versus the heaviness of this type of bike, counter steering and leaning to turns may get a little bit more difficult than on a Scout, and especially right in the first couple times from the time that you switch from any lighter bike to this, will get you thinking twice about what is going on. You'll be wondering, whoa, that was a little different. Obviously, you can still do it, and you will eventually get used to do it, but it's nothing that will get you, used to right away. The same thing when you have wind blowing from the sides. I remember on the Scout, the wind would blow, and it'll move you because the Scout is really light, so it'll push you. You will have to lean against it to provide some sort of resistance. And on this bike, that doesn't happen. On this bike, regardless if you're on a tall bridge and there's wind and you're being moved, or if you're trying to lean to turn, when it comes to leaning to turn, you will have to put a little bit more force. But when it comes to wind blowing, it barely moves you. The bike it's just great. So leave your comments, leave your questions, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. And I'll see you next time.